the All Things XR podcast. Where you can get the best AR VR analyzers from the biggest names in the field. Hi everyone, welcome to the All Things XR podcast. I'm Mojtaba. In today's episode, we have a conversation with Hart Woolery, founder of 2020 CV. Hi Hart.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thanks very much. Welcome to the All Things XR podcast. Can you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm the founder of a company called 2020 CV. We work on applications that combine augmented reality, machine learning, and computer vision. And I started the company 3 years ago. And kind of in that period, I've been developing a lot of different apps that are kind of silly ideas, but the underlying technology tends to use machine learning on either hands or objects to try and decode the position in 3D of whatever it's tracking.
Great. When did you found 2020 CV?
In early 2017.
So what's your background, Hart?
I've been kind of in studying computer science, I guess you could say, since I was a kid. But I taught myself programming when I was around 12 or 13 years old, and have kind of done it as a hobby on and off throughout, when I was growing up. And when I got to college, in my university's computer science program was already full, so I had to enroll in something else. So I studied electrical engineering. It took 5 years to get a degree, and never ended up really using it. So came back to computer science, and really I've worked, on almost every aspect of computer science applications, whether it's web apps, mobile apps, PC apps, whatever the case may be. I've done a kind of a range of different software applications. But I would say my most of my time in the past 10 years has been on the mobile side of applications.
Great. So can you tell us more about your company, 2020 CV?
Yeah. So this company was started kind of with the goal to just build interesting experiences using augmented reality. And right when I started it is right around when machine learning and started to pick up on mobile phones. Prior to 2017, there weren't really a lot of easy options to build applications that utilize machine learning in an interesting way. And on top of that, the devices themselves weren't exactly powerful enough to run complicated networks. So it's been an interesting couple of years seeing that technology grow, and our company alongside that has been kind of trying to push the boundaries of what's possible using the phone's camera and creating different applications. One of the first ones I created was kind of a augmented reality lightsaber, like in Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And that got a good reception, and people enjoyed kind of turning a piece of rolled up paper into a lightsaber. But we also built a couple others that track hands, like the Yo Puppet app, and what's basically virtual hand puppets, as well as one that tracks dogs, it's basically Snapchat for dogs. And over that period, other companies have kind of built things that have tracked your dogs as well, but I think our application was one of the first to do it.
So Hart, one of the things I've noticed is that Mark Cuban, the famous entrepreneur, is also an investor in your company. How did that
Hmm.
happen, and how the experience of working with Mark Cuban looks like?
So yeah, it's kind of just good luck, I guess you could say. I was between jobs in 2016 to 2017 and kind of deciding, what to do next, whether to go back to a 9 to 5 job or start another company. And in that time when I was looking for jobs, I noticed a lot of positions that required kind of computer vision
Mm-hmm.
skills to get them, and so I figured I would kind of research that a little and try and gain. I had a little bit of background in computer vision, but try and gain more. And if I couldn't apply that to a company, at least I could apply that to applying for a job. And so I had built a rough prototype of that Puppet app, and you know, nobody really tried to put out a demo, but there wasn't really much response. And it was a pretty bad prototype at that time. It didn't use machine learning. It was just purely built on
Uh-huh.
OpenCV. And I created after I created it, I kind of was emailing different people to see what their if they had any interest in turning the app into something more than a prototype. And at the end of it, I just figured what the heck and took a kind of threw the Hail Mary and emailed Mark Cuban, just cold email. And had never spoken to him directly before. And, to my surprise, he replied. And after a couple of emails, he agreed to invest. And so I've kind of had the fortune of being able to work with him over the past couple of months, or past couple of years, rather.
So how the experience of working with Mark Cuban looks like?
He's a very personable guy. He, has all his companies email him once a week with an update, and
Uh-huh.
so I, you know, interact at least once a week with him. And his replies are typically very short, but I uh, can also, just email him anytime you want if you have a question or whatever, and he generally responds very quickly, which is kind of amazing considering how many emails I'm sure he gets per day.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed the experience, and obviously he's a venture capitalist with a wide range of companies and products that he's helped build. So I feel fortunate to kind of have somebody like that in my court.
Mhm. Great. So, Hart, one of the things I admire about you is your creativity. Can you tell
Mhm.
us about your creative process? How do you come with an idea?
Um, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't think there's any uh, one way that has worked for me for all of my different apps I've built, but usually it starts with just um, trying to think of what I could track with the phone's camera. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that is, and what can I track that other people haven't really tracked well in the past, or what's something new that people haven't really tried to track. And starting off with that, I can build on it and try and build something interesting based on tracking something novel. So you know for example, the lightsaber one, I was just trying to track an object in 3D, and I thought a piece of paper would be good because almost everybody has access to a piece of paper. So once I started tracking that, I realized that it would make a good, like, virtual sword or lightsaber stuck on top of that as the handle or hilt. And I that's kind of how I came up with that lightsaber idea. But outside of that, it's really just been um, kind of applying some kind of virtual content onto whatever the camera is looking at, and I try and design it in a way that almost anybody can use it easily, and almost anybody can get some kind of fun out of it. So like the puppets, for example, puppets that have been around for thousands of years,
Uh,
everybody's familiar with them. So it's not something that requires any learning curve. Um, and I really, I just try and build things that people will find fun and interesting, or something that I would want to, use myself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. So as you said, I think your most viral app is Puppet. Tell us more about that. Did you expect it to be that much viral?
Um, yeah, it's kind of funny because the initial prototype I mentioned that I built in 2017, there was almost no response to. And
Uh-huh.
granted, I don't know if, it got in front of the right viewers to make it go viral, but um, so I was kind of surprised when I posted the second demo in like 2018, I want to say early 2018,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it was 2000. Yeah, I think 2018. Um, that got like a million views in a couple of days.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And I think the reason is that something people can easily identify with. People have seen Sesame Street and the Muppets, and Star Wars and everything else that uses puppets. So it's something that's combines technology with kind of old forms of entertainment. So it's something that people can easily identify with, and instantly kind of understand what the value added there is.
Do you have any statistics on your users? What can we conclude by analyzing the data?
Yeah, so none of the apps I built have necessarily taken off to the point where I would consider them large financial successes, but um, you know usually they'll get um, like 10 to 20,000 downloads in the first week, and I don't really do any advertising or anything like that on my end. So I'm sure that in some ways hurts my
Yeah.
uh, total download numbers, since the app store is so crowded. But through purely organic growth, I think the apps do fine on their own, getting you know probably a couple 100,000 downloads per year, or maybe per 2 years. Um, but largely, like I said, some of it's not so much about the apps themselves as it is the underlying technology that I've been working on. So, while it would be great for these to both take off and in a way that could just keep, uh, you know, make enough money to make it worth it to keep investing in them, that would be great. But at the same time, it's also kind of about furthering my uh, ability to produce new and novel technological advances in machine learning and computer vision.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I see. So, 2020 CV is one of Snapchat's partners. What do you think about the Snapchat's AR approach and how this partnership happened?
Yeah, so I think they're in very, probably the leaders in the AR space when it comes to mobile AR, and they reached out to me in last February, right before COVID happened, and
Uh-huh.
kind of asked if I wanted to partner on their new platform, which was going to be the Snap ML platform.
Yeah.
And I agreed, and it's kind of something I wish Snapchat had from day one, because I thought that would be a great way to get exposure for these ideas I've created, um, and it also reduced the amount of development time it takes to get an idea out there. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see, over the next year or so, what people build on top of Snapchat that uses machine learning models outside of what Snap provides itself. And there's already been, quite a few people out there to push out lenses that use their own models. So um, yeah, it would be. I don't know long term if that's going to be the answer for Snapchat, but it certainly opens up the doors for the rest of the world to kind of contribute in a way that um, makes Snap's app more valuable and perhaps reduces the risk of Snapchat developing their own ideas and kind of lets other people test them for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hart, you have great viral projects. I'm also a technical guy myself. I'm sure one of the challenges is to run these AI models on different devices and platforms. What do you do to optimize these models to run on mobile devices as well as desktop computers?
Um, the main thing is just building them off of, uh, whatever the state of the art machine learning model is for mobile at that time. So, uh, they're not, well, the way the way they describe models that do that is using like them as a backbone. So I
Mm-hmm.
use these models as a backbone for my own models and kind of change the last layers of them so that it works for my application or the initial layers or whatever the case may be. And so that takes a lot of the guesswork out of making something that will run out of well on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it is there's just a lot of optimization that goes on in terms of how you're feeding images into the model and prioritizing different things in threads so that you're not blocking the UI of the application and um, uh, so it's kind of like 50-50.
Uh-huh.
The model working well by itself isn't enough to really get the kind of speed you want.
Exactly.
So I've kind of been doing just things to optimize on every possible way I can. And I'd say like most of the things I've built for iOS tend to work well with iPhone SE or 6S and above at 60 frames per second. So that's kind of the baseline that I target. And if it can't get there, hopefully it runs well enough on the majority of devices that users don't see any kind of lag in the movements.
We are recording this episode in the COVID-19 era. Of course, this virus has affected all aspects of our lives. Hart, what do you think the effect of COVID-19 has been on AR and VR industry?
I think, like all things in technology, they've probably benefited from it in some ways, and that people have more time to use applications and more time to kind of more time to spend, say, on if they want to play with VR at home or they want to download a new app. Whereas in the past, they might not have had the financial means or the amount of time required to kind of um, play around with that. A lot of people aren't commuting anymore, so that saves them a couple hours a day that they can spend doing other things. And a lot of people have more money now that they're not commuting and not having to pay for gas and things of that nature. So um, there's good and bad, and I think the tech industry um, hasn't been hurt by
Uh-huh.
COVID at all, whereas other industries like entertainment and restaurants and stuff have. So um, I don't know what's going to happen long term if these companies are going to continue to allow their workers to commute. But if they do, which it seems like a number of them will, then I think that will be good in the long run for the AR and VR industries.
Yeah, yeah, but COVID-19 has speed up the process of some of the things that we had to do, like for example, remote work. But we didn't have the courage to start it. But it has forced companies to do that. So, Hart, one of the subjects that many AR and VR startups and companies are struggling with is their business model. What is your business model in 2020 CV and how do you plan for the future?
I think I'm a little unique in terms of startups and that um, it's kind of I'm just a single person.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody else at my company. And so my overhead is very low and I have the freedom to kind of explore ideas as I wish. I think the overall business model for a company is to build and license machine learning models to other companies. And I don't have, a lot of clients in that respect, but we have been, approached by and worked with other companies in the past
Uh-huh.
to build stuff for them. So that's probably, what our main revenue stream is going forward. But from my end, the focus has been less on generating revenue and more and kind of trying to build things that will be, a home run rather than a base hit, something that's going to, um, take off virally and attract the interest of other companies to
Uh-huh.
license the technology or purchase it outright. So, you know, it's a it's
Yeah.
it's easy to fail in that respect, and probably going to fail a lot of times before I find success, if I do at all. But um, I think that the goal has always just been, continue to build things that are interesting that people will want to use, and eventually the income will follow after that.
Exactly. Many of AR and VR startups and also big companies like Instagram and Snapchat are working in AR and VR and ads. Are there any statistics on how AR and VR will help advertising and also about its effects and results?
hmm Yeah. So the I think the um, one of the powerful ways for different advertisers to get their message out these days is to kind of embed their message in people's social media posts. So if you can have people do the advertising for you, that's incredibly powerful because you're getting distribution to tons of new viewers without having to exactly pay anything extra for those people to spread your message. Similar in a way that say somebody might walk around with a Nike logo on their shirt.
Yeah.
That's free advertising for Nike. Um, is this similar kind of analogy to um, social media posts where people are posting content that has advertisers, brands built into it, and I think in that regard, it's companies are always looking for new ways to connect with younger generations. And I've seen a lot in recent years them attempt to do that through things like AR filters and things of that nature.
That's a great analysis of the ads in AR. How do you see the overall market of AR and VR?
Um, I think it's definitely still in its early stages. Um, it's only been really in the past 5 years that it's maybe even less than that it's started to kind of take off. I think there's still a question that hangs in the air of, you know, is it going to die at some point? Which I don't think is ever going to be the case. But what's the ceiling for it is really the important question. And I think one of the most important advances we're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years is what companies are going to do with AR glasses, and if they can build something that people actually want to wear and use, then I think that's where the real opportunity is going to lie. And you know, they say that most ideas out as toys, and that's really what AR is at this stage. It's just a
Exactly.
toy, and then it kind of once the technology matures, it becomes more than a toy, it becomes a tool. And once people can really start using AR as a tool, then I think that's when we'll see the most interesting stuff being built.
Yeah, totally agree. So, Hart, you've been in AR and VR market for years. What's your advice for AR and VR startup founders?
Um, I think just be patient is the probably the best advice I can give.
Uh huh.
There's it's a small and growing industry, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of overnight successes for the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, really, it's kind of about building something novel and figuring out a way to, get people to use it. And I think that's going to require a lot of patience because right now, most people don't take AR applications too seriously outside of what's already been built by Snapchat and others with face filters and things of that nature. But there's certainly a lot of investment being poured into that sector, and I think as the technology matures, we'll see new and interesting applications come to light.
Uh-huh. So, Hart, what are the companies or technologies you are most excited about right now in AR and VR?
Um, I'm kind of curious what Apple comes out with in terms of their supposed AR glasses that they've been working on, because they've always been a company that kind of sets the bar for new technology. But I have no idea how far away that is, and what they're even building. Um, Another company I've talked to in the past, but I signed an NDA with, so I can't really disclose much, as a
Uh-huh.
company called Humane,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, yeah.
they're
Sam Altman is an investor in that
yes, yes,
company. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They just raised $30 million, and still have no idea.
Uh-huh.
Even with the NDA, I really couldn't reveal much because I don't know much.
Yeah.
But they're building some kind of device that I think might be in the space. I don't know for certain, but um, and I think that outside of that, there's really going to be interesting things happening with Snapchat and their with this recent incorporation of machine learning. I think that's going to open the possibilities for a lot of people to build things that otherwise might not really see the light of day because
Mm-hmm.
they can't get an audience. But um, Snapchat provides a good kind of sandbox to test out those ideas.
Uh-huh. So, Hart, as of our last question, how do you envision the future of AR and VR?
Um, I think uh, really the future is going to be kind of more serious applications. People using augmented reality glasses to overlay information on whatever they're working on, and similar to VR as well. I think a lot of things could be done inside of VR as well that don't require information from the real world. Um, so I would say that the future really lies in serious tools that can be built that will help people with their jobs and kind of reduce the chances of error and improve the speed and efficiency with which they work. So everything from mechanics to doctors to um, construction workers, basically anybody who works in a somewhat technical trade where they can anywhere they can get instant information instantly overlaid onto whatever they're working on. I think that will speed up and make things more efficient in their field.
Great. Well, Hart, thanks very much for joining the All Things XR podcast. It was a pleasure.
Sure, thank you.